Hey Sri Lanka, this is Yasmin Yusuf from DecibelLK, and I have two members from Rain in Sahara. Introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Laeen. I'm the keyboard producer, flute player, and co-vocalist for Rain in Sahara.
I'm
And
Rain. I sing and I also write songs for Rain Sahara.
I have to tell you one thing. Can you break glass with that voice of yours?
That's a joke.
because in our songs, we often we go through a lot of different sort of like emotional levels. There can be sort of a soft section, or Rain is singing sort of like a very beautiful sort of high melody, and then he just rips into this,
The harsh vocals.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I
So
asked you the question, because man, in one song you hit so many ranges, it's like, whoa, that should be enough to break glass. And so tell us about your band. What's the story here?
So Rain Sahara, it sort of started as a conscious project, actually. Um, I guess in some ways the genesis of the band was in the area we lived in Guwahati in Assam, which is in northeast India. There was what everybody called like a drain in an area that we walked past every day. We would just be walking past this.
Yeah.
And we slowly came to know that it was actually a river. Everybody just called it a drain because people were throwing trash in it. I mean, when you think of a river, you think of a normal river color. It was basically black bubbles. I mean, just people think it's a drain because of the way that it looks. And so when we sort of realized, actually, this is not a drain, this is a river, that sort of prompted, I guess, we wanted to do something. And I was just coming back into in music. My background's Western classical. Like I studied a lot of Western classical as a kid. Then I initially came to India doing more international development oriented work. And so I was looking at a way to be able to combine these two things. And so when we were seeing this and we were sort of like starting to experiment with some music, it's like this we have to write something about this. And that became the first song that we wrote for Rain in Sahara, which was called Blackwater Kalapani. So that was inspired by that river that we saw in our everyday lives, and we realized we've got to figure out a way that we can express ourselves artistically about these issues. And it initially started as a hip hop project. Then I met Rain in Arunachal at another festival that his other band Arogya was performing in. We met there, and then we just artistically had a connection.
And we've had like toured together, right? Like kind of.
Yeah, we were planning to do that, and then
But somehow like we
just
end up in playing
yeah, and then
yeah.
we started creating songs together, and then it went from looking at issues of the environment to working on issues. I mean, a lot of these issues are interlinked with environment, corruption issues. So exploring a lot of these themes. Yeah, so that's how it all started, and trying to just create more music in this area. And I mean, our very grand vision is to sort of create a modern sort of electro rock metal opera kind of experience. So that's where we're slowly trying to get ourselves to. And,
Which is really
so
cool. I mean, it's a progression. Music has always been something that helps you evolve and just be the best version and get the best version of your talent out. So when it comes to activism, and you guys have specifically chosen environmental activism, how is that taken in 2025? Are people still very serious about receiving messages about the environment and really putting things into everyday life, like really taking advice and doing the right things?
it's a really good question. I mean, I think in 2025, we look at climate change, we look at climate action. We've had some very big environmental movements, and that was what prompted us to write the song "You Think Our Future's a Joke." We wrote that a few years ago, and because I think in the way that we live right now in this sort of like more digitally isolating world, we can become quite detached from a lot of the challenges that are going on, or they seem to be so enormous. What can we as individuals do? And that's also a narrative that's being pushed, that it's actually the individual that you're responsible, when in actuality there are much larger forces, and at an individual level, there are a lot of things we can do which are great, which is better than not taking action. But there need to be large systemic changes. And in some ways, the challenge of this is probably the biggest challenge for humanity ever, because it's essentially this tragedy of the commons problem at a global level, where if any actor decides, I don't want to engage in this, I'm going to maximize my self-interest, the whole thing can just fall apart. For us, this is such a pressing issue. But you're right, like if we really look at it, where are the wins right now? Where are the wins and how we are changing? At local levels, regional levels, national levels, there are great things happening all around the world. But if we look at the global level in terms of a lot of the emissions and the trajectory and the predictions that the scientists are giving now, it would be a little bit scary to really grapple with. So for us, it's how do we present this message in a way that doesn't contribute to this despair, this sort of like this gloomy outlook. Oh, what can we really do? It's about, and I think it has taken us time and maturity and experience in being able to refine how we are able to deliver this message in a way that can really connect audiences, and ideally it's leaving them hopeful, inspired, rejuvenating, and wanting to take action, and harnessing, especially, with our show is heavy, it's harnessing that energy and then putting that into local impact. So trying to connect them to organizations. I mean, this is what's so interesting. This is our first tour around many of these cities. It's the first time we've ever performed. So we're trying to connect with organizations there so that we can try and harness that energy, build those networks, and create impact beyond the music, beyond the show, beyond that moment.
Very cool, man. I love it. Because an interesting point, like a friend pointed out like a few weeks ago when I initially put up the posters, was that you guys are talking about environmental pollution and things like that, but what about your carbon footprint as people who are touring? That was like an interesting question. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that we obviously care very deeply about. And so for us, coming from Northeast, there aren't, in Europe, there are green venues now and venues that only use, renewable energy and things like that. So for us, something that we have done before are sort of like plantation drives, planting trees. We've tried to work with governments on this. We were unable to complete one of those projects. We can go into that at some point because that's quite an interesting story. But we're trying to partner with organizations now where in some of the cities we go, we can work with local organizations to do some plantation drives, basically reforestation, and ideally also work with youth. We do workshops on art for change and engaging young people in identifying local issues in their community, sort of like breaking down how we can look at that, and then breaking down the artistic process and how we can create, whether it's simple poetry or artwork on identifying these issues and creating art around it to raise awareness and to start conversations, to spark dialogue. And these are great things, I mean, I think bands like Coldplay, Radiohead have really been pushing the boundaries in how at that very large touring level, the emissions can be reduced. The thinking about this as a challenge to overcome. I think it's fascinating, and it'll be really interesting as we now begin to start this touring process, how we can achieve at our level, it's just at the very beginning level, some impact in there to mitigate some of the carbon footprint. Yeah. So we're excited to explore this, and I'm sure as we meet people around the country and meet new partners and people working on similar initiatives, that we can do some really cool things together. So yeah, really excited about it.
And on another note, how did the Tatakai tour happen for you guys? Because you did mention there is a pretty interesting story to this.
Bring your brains to the Candy Pub Quiz. Vouchers, towers, bragging rights, all that. Win it and have the most fun with your clothes on every Thursday in June, 7:30 onwards at Slightly Chilled. Want more information? Call 075 656 4567.
It all started when
Yeah.
Rain called me up and said, "Hey, there's this band coming to
Yeah,
To Assam.
Assam, yeah, band called Lemoflis. So after that, like, yeah, we had a concert, right? And they had our number, and after that, we started getting in touch with each other, and this tour happened finally. I think these people are even releasing their album, I guess, right? Yeah.
Nemopolis."
Nemopolis,
Yeah. So basically,
yeah.
so Rain called me up and said, "Hey, there's this insanely awesome band coming from Pune to Guwahati. Got to come check them out." So I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's go see them. We saw them. It sounded amazing.
Amazing.
And we met them afterwards and had a nice chat. And he said, "Yeah, let's keep in touch to see if there's something we can do together." And then a few months later down the line, we got in touch, and basically the idea was like, how can we create something? Let's build this conscious tour out, and let's think about the places we can do. They were saying that we can do some of the cities around Pune and in South India, and then we were suggesting, we can do organize some things in the Northeast. And then Akash from Nemopolis said, "Hey, there's this band from Sri Lanka. You guys got to check them out. We should also, they've got a conscious message. We should bring them into this tour as well." And so we checked out. This sounds awesome. And Sri Lanka as well, like bringing different messages, but all interlinked. So Nemopolis does a lot about mental health issues, which is a big part of also the work that we do. Climate crisis, there's a lot of anxiety and climate grief that's associated with that, and a part of it. And then Paranoid Earthling does a lot of work on all sorts of conscious issues that, again, economically linked to the climate crisis, climate refugees that are predicted to start happening in the near future, all sorts of related issues there. So yeah, so it just happened in this very organic sort of DIY punk way that we all got in touch, and there was just a click. Like, we haven't met the Paranoid Earthling team yet, but we've been on calls and messaging, and there seems to be this just beautiful energy. So we're really excited, and ultimately what we can create as a really, I guess, unique concert experience with all of these different messages, all of this amazing positive energy that we're very excited to explore, and as the tour progresses, develop that as an entire concert experience.
And on a completely different note, you guys are an award-winning act, and you guys have also opened for guys like Mos Def and Switchfoot, Voice of the Fall, etc. What was that experience like for you guys?
That experience with Mos Def is pretty interesting, because that was in Denmark. And it was actually we won a competition called Fair Play, which is an initiative by Transparency International and JM International, Transparency International is one of the biggest anti-corruption organizations in the world, based out of Berlin, doing incredible work in that space. And JM International is an incredible music NGO, one of the largest music NGOs, if not the largest music NGO in the world, based out of Belgium. So they created this anti-corruption program, and there are Fair Play anti-corruption ambassadors from many different parts of the world, from Africa, from Latin America. We're one of theirs from Asia. And so as part of that, we went to perform at the International Anti-Corruption Conference in Denmark. And that was actually our first show as an entire band together.
Wow.
I think we finished writing all of the songs for that.
8 or 7 songs.
Yeah.
Like Candice maybe?
Yeah. And then we had about 2-3 weeks to learn them. So it was a pretty terrifying experience. And it was the first concert that we ever did. So stepping onto that stage, and that was in an amazing venue where our favorite bands like Avenged Sevenfold, that's where they play when they play Denmark. So it was kind of a very intimidating experience for our first concert as a band. But yeah, just incredible. And yeah, most def was quite incredible, and just to see, you know, like the process of these larger concerts and
Yeah.
how it all sort of takes shape was super interesting.
Yeah.
New experiences for us.
After that, like we played with Words of the Fall, right? At Decibel.
Yeah, then we came
Yeah.
back to India
India,
straight to
yeah.
NH7.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Switchfoot was there. Words of the Fall, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Good experience, man. Yeah.
I can imagine that must have been something for you guys. Literally from one big stage to another.
yeah, and
Yeah,
those
it
were
was
like
like,
the first
yeah.
couple concerts for the
Yeah.
band. So it was high stakes. We had to really make sure that we pulled out all the stops, and but it was good, wonderful experience, and it just shows that, you know, this message, I guess, coming back to one of your earlier questions, how does this message connect? You know, like whether it's in Denmark or in Meghalaya, or we played some very, like, I remember the first time we played the Marjolin Music Festival, which is a small river island, and there were a lot of bands from around India, a lot of really great top bands, but a lot of the audience was a local audience. I remember our guitarist, Bowen, before the show, it's like, are they gonna get the message? You know, like, is this gonna work? Like, are they gonna understand the music? And we were just blown away. They were just giving so much energy. I mean, and because I think we use a lot of visuals in our performance. So if people are experiencing some of this kind of music for the first time in some of these more rural places that we performed, the visuals, the light, the whole experience, they can understand, and they can connect to it, even if they don't necessarily understand the language or the speed at which some of the lyrics are coming. So yeah, it's this message is connecting, and people are definitely feeling it, and I think there's tapping into this frustration, and you know that it's also maybe not being spoken about that much in you know, the music spaces that we perform in. So it's a new experience, I think, for some people to engage with this kind of message, with this overall heavy music experience. So yeah, we're hopeful that this message is impacting, and we've had some amazing experiences with people who've been in the audiences and really been moved by the message. So,
And is there anything that you guys want to tell your fans who are coming out, fans new and old, who are coming out to check you guys out at the Tatakai tour?
yeah, so Tatakai is going to be a brand new experience with all three bands. We've already been discussing some ways that we can interlink some new ideas. So even if you've seen Rain in Sahara before, there's going to be some new things coming, in terms of new songs, in terms of new aspects of the show. So yeah, so we're really excited, and ultimately, yeah, just getting all of these bands together and figuring out how we can, you know, take this conscious message as far as we can with this touring concept, because I think further down the road, this could be a blueprint for something really special, in terms of creating these conscious concert experiences, and, you know, partnering with local organizations and having impact beyond music. So that's something we're just incredibly excited about, and to perform with these incredibly talented bands. And yeah, it's going to be a really, really great tour. So super excited, and super excited to meet a lot of people who are going to be coming and be part of this. So
all power to you guys and the rest of the bands, and here's to the Tatakai tour being an epic success.
Thanks so much, Yasmin.
No problem, man. All the best.
Thank you.